And welcome back. Today I've got a special guest randomly reached out to again, Mark Ward. So thank you again, Mark, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. So I like to try and keep my podcast nice and short. So we'll try and keep it around the 25, 30-minute mark, but we'll just see how things go. But
Trying not to ramble on too much then.
Yeah, try not go on too many tangents. So we'll try and keep it nice and tight. But there are a few main things that I sort of wanted to run over today, things that we could learn about you and we could hopefully pull some valuable lessons out of that. So first of all, I just wanted to say why I invited you on. So I've been following you for a while on Instagram. I don't know how we actually connected on Instagram, to be honest. Do you know?
I can tell you my earliest memory, and that was you having a conversation with, it was actually Del Craig.
Oh, was it? Okay.
It's potentially from that.
Oh, okay. Well, did you see that in the comments, do you think?
No, I think you guys had a conversation about something and you were potentially going to do something together because Del was studying fitness and you were a PT at the time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I've known Del for a while now. So it's good that you've got that connection. And if Del's listening, which she will be, hello. Yeah.
Shout out Del.
Yeah, so I think the main reason I invited you on is you've obviously been supporting my content for a while now, I've noticed. And also, I guess it's that, relation that you're a personal trainer. I've been a personal trainer before, and I've just seen that it looks like you've just started, like you've just transitioned over to it. And that's the main reason why, like having that common ground of both being personal trainers, and you're obviously still doing that at the moment, and then you've been supportive of my content. And I do feel like you're quite quiet on social media. I think like you put up some funny reels, but I feel like you don't do many talking videos.
Yeah, I guess content's probably the hardest part of being a personal trainer or a business owner in general. I think you also, I've got to commend you. You open yourself up to so much criticism by getting in front of a camera and speaking. So you could pick any random number of, I guess, quote unquote influencers and go check their comment section. And I guarantee you the top 5 comments that aren't pinned are probably someone criticizing them or contradicting what the message they're trying to get across. So yeah, I guess it's a pretty volatile game sometimes.
It is. Yeah, luckily I haven't had too much criticism yet, but I'm sure I'll get it eventually. It's bound to happen. The more eyes you get on you, the more criticism's going to come to play. I was talking to Jimmy, who I had on recently, and he's got over 100,000 people following. He said that he had his first death threat the other day.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've been following Jimmy for a while as well.
Have you? Yeah. So it's bound to happen. But that's just how social media is. All right, so might as well get straight into it. So there's a few things we wanted to run over today, talking about. Well, first off, just give us a little bit of a background story of yourself, and we'll transition firstly into your story around partying and being an addict, as you said. So I'll get you to take the floor.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of where my fitness journey starts. When I was 18, 19, and I joined a gym, as most blokes do, to try and impress girls. And at the time, I was probably going out, 4 and 5 nights a week. You never consider yourself an addict when you're doing that, because especially if you're not getting on it through the week, you might drink and take drugs Friday to Sunday, Friday to Monday sometimes, or the odd night through the week. But because you work full time Monday to Friday, it doesn't affect your lifestyle. You don't consider it a disorder. So I guess the level of addiction is purely based on the reasons that I was doing it. And it wasn't until a bad breakup and a bit of a journey of self-discovery that I sort of sought out external validation and a sense of community in going out every weekend. And at the time, you think your best mate and My old man always used to say to me, "You'll count your best mates on one hand," and to a certain degree, that's true. But at the time, you think, oh, "Fuck off, Dad! Like I've got heaps of mates that'll always be there for me." But looking back now, not always necessarily the case,
Mm.
especially in my early 20s. I guess you would call party drugs led to something a bit more heavy, and it led me to some pretty dark places that I never thought I'd end up.
Okay.
And yeah, so that I experienced a bit of a what you would consider a psychotic break, and I said to myself, I never want to feel like that again. So that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and I lent on fitness to drag me out of a dark place.
Hmm. So, what are what are some like for others listening out there that might be struggling,
Yeah,
going through the same thing that you've been going through? What are what are
yeah.
some pieces of advice that you could give to them, or some things that they could relate?
The worst thing about it is until you realize it yourself, you're not going to change. Until you realize it yourself, you're not going to change. You could have the best support network in the world and they're doing everything they can to help you. Until you make an active effort to make a change yourself, unfortunately, those behaviors are just going to continue. A lot of the time, there usually is some kind of rock bottom that needs to happen first.
Hmm. So they've got to, yeah, hit that rock bottom before they can move on.
You got to
What?
want to do it. You got to
Yeah.
want to do it. You got to want to, because there's this, it's isolating. It's
Hmm.
isolating. You got to, the people that you hang around all the time, you got to sort of take a break. The thing that you've known for so long, you've got to want to get away from that.
So did you separate from like a certain crowds when you like when you started to go off and do your own thing, or?
So initially, it was like a 3 or 4 months. There's a thing these days called monk mode, where you sort of just like
Mm.
don't interact with the outside world to a
Mm.
certain degree, and there's a certain level of sobriety that comes with that, and like you focus on yourself. And I guess that's what I did at the time, but to get me away from a lifestyle that was disordered, and I couldn't see it.
Does it still affect you now? Like the after effects of all the partying and
So one thing that did happen to me, I ended up with PTSD. So overcoming that was quite difficult, and to a certain degree, sometimes still has small effects on me. But yeah, I my past is my past. I can't change it now.
Hmm. Okay. And how would you say that affected your relationships as well? Like with your
At the time, I blamed everyone else.
yeah.
So it wasn't until I went through a bit of a breakup that I sort of looked introspectively, and I'm like, maybe it's not always the other person that's the problem. Not just in my romantic relationship, but I guess in relationships in general. So
Hmm. Okay. And did that lead you into because you're a mental health care worker?
yep,
So did that help you get into that? Can you
it
expand on
sort of
that?
it influenced it a bit. So I got into disability support work in 2017. I gravitated a lot towards mental health because I kind of resonated with the people that I was working with.
Mm.
I made really good connections because I guess I could empathize quite well with the situation they were going through,
Mm.
especially people with psychosocial disabilities. Yeah, I guess having seen it firsthand, I felt like I could help.
So how long have you been doing that now? Like, are you still doing a little bit of
Uh,
mental health care work here and there, or not at all?
no, so I fully resigned in May this year, but I sort of transitioned away from the role of support worker in about 2019-ish,
Mm.
and then took on an office role. I was HR for a bit, and then service manager, and a few different roles, essentially helping other people become what I had become. My boss was one of my best mates,
Mm.
and we'd sort of fucking built the company from what it was to what it is today. And so, along with that comes career progression and professional development and all the rest of it. So,
Mm. And is that why you like? Why did you decide to pursue personal training?
so my parents talked me out of it when I was in my early 20s,
Mm.
telling me personal trainers are a dime a dozen. There'll never be any money in it, all the rest of it. And then I was essentially in a role that I couldn't go any further. And I hadn't really spoken to a NDIS participant for a good 6 months or so. So you sort of lose sight of what you got in the industry. And that just led me to seek more, to seek job satisfaction. And
Here you are.
I took the leap of faith. And
yeah, it's funny you say that your parents talked you out of it, because one of my best friends, when I was, I don't know, around the age of 20, 25 or something along those lines, he talked me out of it first. He said, "Oh, every man and their dog's a PT, blah 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 blah," and everyone I would talk to would say the same thing, basically. So yeah, but I ended up pursuing it after I left being a mechanic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty normal that a lot of people talk you out of it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Especially these days, 90% of the time you're working as an IBO, so an independent business owner. So there's no guaranteed income. You sort of self.
Yeah. So how long have you been a personal trainer now for?
November last year, so about 8 months.
Okay. And how have you found it?
Initially, it was terrifying. Obviously, leaving a stable income, a very good income, to go and do something that initially gives you $0. I was shit myself. So in that time, I've worked up to 5 casual jobs at any given time to sort of pay my mortgage, put food on the table, all the rest of it.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. So, but now I'm at a point where it's pretty well self-sustainable. So having a young family does certainly make the decision a little bit more chaotic.
It would definitely make your drive higher,
absolutely. Yeah. I seen a video yesterday from Alex Hormozy.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but say it.
About a married person with children earning more than a married person in general, or a married person in general earning more than a single person, and simply because the stakes are higher. You need it, the drivers. Yeah. So there's that motivating factor that I can't let my family down. So,
and I'd love to know, like, since you've obviously been working with people for the last 8 months, what are the insights that you've learned about working with people? Like, you obviously work for people as a carer, but as a personal trainer, what have you really learned? Can you pull one insight out?
Majority of the people I work with are Gen Pop. And at the end of the day, a lot of people do not give a shit how much you know. They care about how much you care. So my clients' goals are my goals. So if you can get someone to invest in you by investing in themselves, then that's the main battle.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. And we did mock up a couple of other insights. And the one that I was interested in was the one where you said there are no friends in business. I'd love for you to.
Yeah. So I guess when I wrote that to you as well, it was sort of off the back of leaving my previous role. Those two don't go really hand in hand. So it's more around when I was working in that role, friends had let the business down, and then more transitioning to a personal trainer. I've had a lot of people reach out over the time, and whether it be online coaching or whatever it is. Normally I do the programming and meal planning before I charge the client to ensure that they're happy with the product. And majority of people that have ghosted me were friends. Yeah. So and it's definitely not a reflection of our friendship, but sometimes maybe more of a reflection of their goals.
I think it's like I've had some close people reach out to me and be like, "Oh, can you write me out a nutrition program?" And I honestly feel like you have to charge them, otherwise they're not going to take it seriously.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then they didn't message me back 100%. after I said, "Oh, look, it's going to cost this much." They didn't message me back.
Yeah,
So like I could have been
Yeah,
like,
and even
oh
if the work's already done.
yeah, I could have been like, oh, I'll write it out for you. Spent like an hour like writing
Yeah,
out full food diary or whatever it is, and then they probably wouldn't have stuck with it.
yeah,
It would have been just a fleeting moment where they're like, oh, Dylan's a personal trainer. I'll reach out to him. He can write me out a program,
yeah,
and they won't take it seriously. So
yeah,
even though it was a really close person to me, I was like, look, it's going to cost this much because it's, your time is
yeah,
valuable. It's worth it. So, and there
yeah.
was also a couple more insights. I'm trying to remember. Would you like to share them?
A plan without action is just words. So that's kind of something that I take away from getting away from the lifestyle that I was
Mm.
involved in, but as well as in my previous role, we did a lot of professional development,
Mm.
and like you can make all the plans that you want, but until you actively take the steps towards doing something,
Mm.
it's lip service at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
I've
yeah, um, talking about doing the thing is not doing the thing.
another famous thing that Alex Hormozy says all the time. Well, I think it was maybe Chris Williamson. He said like you can
Chris
think
Williams.
about doing the thing, you can plan about doing the thing, but it's not until you do the thing you do the thing. So I feel like that's
Exactly.
yeah, the biggest thing I've learned, because I used to spend so much time planning and making sure everything's perfect, and that would lead to
Yeah.
perfectionism, which is the worst thing, and then paralysis analysis, because you're just consuming so much information from, like, let's just say
Yeah.
you watch Alex Hormozy, you watch Gary Vee, you watch Russell Branson, you watch all these like really
Yeah.
successful people, and then you're like, oh, I don't know who to listen to. So it is about finding the right person. I feel like that you resonate with, and just actioning it as fast as
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
100%.
And we did have two audience questions. So the first one was
Yep.
from Lincoln. So he was asking,
Yep.
yeah, how do you, what was it? How do you navigate, being a father, and who influenced you the most? So who's had the
I
most
think his
influence
was
on you?
who influenced me.
Yeah.
Yeah, throughout my life. He told me to pick one person. I got a question myself, and it was pretty similar as who I looked up to most
Mm.
growing up. And unfortunately, can't pick one person. I would have to say my parents, because my parents are and always will be my biggest role models. Like you can have a hero, and you can look up to people in terms of success and things like that. But in terms of role models that have really shaped my life, I can't say anyone but my parents.
What lessons have they taught
And
you?
absolutely.
What's one lesson or one thing that they've really drilled into you that's helped you?
Resilience.
Mm.
Resilience, probably more than anything, is to unconditionally back your family. Doesn't matter whether I was right or wrong. I fucked up quite a lot as a teenager,
Mm.
but they were unconditionally in my corner when I needed it.
Okay, perfect. And from Dell, hello Dell.
Yep.
She's struggled with burnout for a long time, and
Yeah.
I'm assuming you know this, I know this. So yeah,
Yep.
she would love some advice on how you navigate burnout.
Look, again, coming back to resilience, it's
Mm.
always going to play a big part. But if I sit here and told you that I successfully navigated burnout, I'd be lying, because I took a leap of faith in myself and moved away from an industry that was burning me out, if that makes sense. Technically, I didn't deal with it. So what I did is I sat down and I thought about what is my why, and my why wasn't there anymore. So the decision to make a leap of faith and go do something that I was passionate about.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So it comes down to your why. So having a very strong why,
Yeah.
and that is going to
And
motivate you.
yeah, and I think her question also dove into, have my fitness goals changed since becoming a father? Absolutely. So beforehand, I did a competitive bodybuilding show. I told myself I was going to take the year off and then do it again this year. I got 4 weeks into prep and just thought to myself what it took for my body to recover last time. So
Mm,
my strength was in the gutter, my testosterone was low. Yeah, it just made a dramatic impact on my life. So competing is always going to be there, and I guarantee I'll do it again someday. But at the moment, it's more about being as fit as fit as possible, as strong as possible, as functional as possible. I don't want to get to a point where I can't lift my son in the air,
yeah,
no matter
yeah,
how old he is.
yeah. It's all about longevity, really.
100%.
And just being around for
Yeah.
your kid.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, we'll keep it nice and short. As I said, I like to keep my podcast nice and short.
Cool.
So thank you for joining me again, Mark.
No, thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate your time.
No worries at all. What I'll do is I'll end this episode now, and then we can have
Yep.
a little quick chat.
Yeah,
So
sweet.
until next time, keep learning.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks, Bill.